Hello everyone, thank you for watching. I want to start out this video with an apology to Chris McCandless. If you don't know who that person is, he is the subject of Jon Krakauer's book, Into the Wild. He gave away all his money. He was a trust fund baby. Gave all his money away and went to go find himself in the Alaskan wilderness. Got trapped on a transit bus that was put there while they were trying to build a road. They gave up on the road, took most of the buses out, but this bus remained as kind of a shelter for hikers and hunters who may get caught in the elements. Passed away from starvation. Well, actually, Jon Krakauer figured out that it was some type of parasite that led to the starvation. And Jon Krakauer, mad respect for, did Into Thin Air about that horrible disaster with so many climbers on Mount Everest, and the whole thing about should there be that many climbers on Mount Everest, and the answer is no, but people, as long as they can pay for it, are going to do it. Um, Wrote this book, and it was a bestseller. I read it, and I hated it. And the reason why I hated it goes back to transcendentalism. I do not believe in transcendentalism. Not that I'm an anti-transcendentalist, although the world would prove, Nathaniel Hawthorne and others correct that humans will do what's best for themselves rather than what's best for everyone. Um, I just had a hard time. I've just never believed in the transcendental, go into nature, you can take care of yourself. No, I couldn't. I wouldn't. So I never got into that. And, when I got into college and did some more research, um, they were just rich white guys who had their meals brought to them. They're in a cabin. They were not self-sufficient or self-reliant, as one of their essays was. So anyway, the whole movement of Chris McCandless going out and dying for what he believed in, I did not make him a martyr. I did not believe it. I've had colleagues teach the book. My son just had to read the book in the spring, and he didn't like it. And it's kind of like, who goes to Alaska with just a 22 caliber? You need something better. Um, I missed the point. And how I know I missed the point was that his sister wrote her memoir called The Wild Truth. And what I liked about this book is it set the record straight. And as I was reading the book, I felt stupid, as I should, because I have a lot in common with Chris McCandless and his sister Carine, who is the author of this book. When her brother died, she, was approached by people because it was, he was found by other hikers. It was just, this poor kid went to go search and find himself, and it ended costing his life. Um, so I did not buy into that, but Krakauer did, and she's grieving, and he's a very good researcher, and she makes it very clear that it was not on Krakauer, it was all on her. She just wasn't in the right headspace, and she didn't tell him everything. Okay, so the book is published, and it's a bestseller, but there are some people like me who are like, why are people celebrating the spoiled brat? And yes, I did think, and that's why I started this video with an apology. Um, why did this spoiled brat story become so popular? He could have done so many other things. And she said she didn't give Krakauer um, all of the information because she didn't want to make her parents seem as bad as they truly are. So she wrote this book to set the record straight. Made very clear that Krakauer totally understands, and he even wrote the foreword in the book. So I don't want you to think that he's angry that she withheld information from him, but her story goes more into the craziness of their household. So in the book, they do kind in I'm sorry, in Into the Wild, they do kind of gloss over this father and having like two families at the same time. They just kind of gloss over when kids were born. Um, and it turns out that her father was trying to keep his wife in Colorado and create another family with his secretary. And finally, his secretary had had enough, but clearly there was lying going on. You have kids born within 3 months of each other to the two wives. So, there was some lying there. And it, it's just, it was hard for me to read because it was so similar to my childhood and the unpredictability. You have a mother, and it I still don't understand it as a mother myself. Like, my kids come first, period, end of story. I was not raised that way. Like, I went to my mom and would share things with her, because she's my mom, and I thought she would protect me, and all these, just I thought I could trust her. And you find out later that you can't. You know, in my case, my mom shared everything with my stepfather, who would then turn and hold it against me. So when you grow up with such unpredictability, and then as an adult, you are exposed, especially in college, when you meet other people and you're like, huh, is, am I dysfunctional? Is there something wrong with me? So that is what I think Chris was looking for. He tried to get away from his parents while he was in college, because they were so manipulative and just so, um, their love was conditional, and the conditions changed all the time. So my heart goes out to Chris and Carine. Um, so when you see why he went out there, and I could see why he would just want to be alone, and they do say that about my generation. We learn that if when things get too overwhelming, we solve what we can, and then we go and we remove ourselves from the situation, and just try and find peace and quiet to figure out the rest of the issues we need to deal with. And I believe, based on Karen's book, that's what Chris was trying to do. And unfortunately, he was unprepared for the Alaskan wilderness, and it led to his death. Carine writes, her mistakes. She didn't go, um, into the wild. She tried to be the good daughter because she, like me, was always trying to find the formula. So, what do we have to do for you to accept us as your children and earn your trust? And, she is very honest about her mistakes. Um, as she wrote this book, her third marriage was breaking up, to which her mom showed up on the anniversary, her, third, uh, her anniversary with her third husband, had never recognized any of her anniversaries with any of her husbands, and then gave her a present knowing that she was separated from her third husband. And it turned out to be this like little bird love thing, um, picture that hung up in their childhood home. And the mom was basically making a statement of, oh, yeah, you make judgments about my marriage, but we're still married, and your third marriage is crumbling. So, that was the mental psychological games that the parents played on these poor kids. So she was able to find meaning in the small things and trying to survive in the quotey fingers real world, where her brother, because he was older, um, was able to escape, and he did. And this one really struck home with me because he was the oldest sibling, as I was to my brother. When you go to college and you know you're leaving that person alone with that situation, the guilt is there, and I still carry that guilt. And my brother and I talk about it. Not that I want to turn this into a therapy session, but I would highly recommend reading this book to get the backstory, and then read Into the Wild if you haven't. Or Sean Penn made this beautiful movie that I have to watch because, like I said, I did not like the book. I'm like, why am I going to waste my time watching a movie on a book I didn't really like? Now that I have the backstory, now I will not only be watching the film, but I probably will be teaching Into the Wild because I think a lot of students of mine could connect with the craziness of their home life. All right, so this went on a little bit, but like I said, it added a lot of information that was missing from Into the Wild. But it just adds so many layers that if you've read Into the Wild, you're going to want to go back and do a side by side comparison. Okay, so thank you for watching so long. Like, share, or subscribe.